Howdy guys, it's Joe here, and in the previous day's video, I got a comment wanting me to talk about Sombra in order to counter the tank meta. And I've been hearing this for quite a few days, and I've actually been trying it out myself and watching it in a few esports games. I kind of want to go over what I've really figured out about this way to play and how she can really work against the meta. And as well, I did yesterday go over a video about how to use Symmetra and Torp to counter the tank meta, which is actually pretty good on defense, and this is actually an okay strategy on offense. One thing that I do want to get over and talk about before I even get started though is that unless you have like a group of 5 to 6, this strategy is honestly pretty useless. It's really hard to pull off without a lot of players on your team, and if everyone's not going in when you are, you're really just going to be a waste of space in your team. You won't do enough damage, you won't do enough healing, you won't do enough CC, and it'd be better if you just picked a tank or picked a healer, or even picked someone like Soldier. So that's just a bit of a prerequisite, and as well, I honestly don't have enough people that I play with to even use this strategy in my own games, so I just kind of have to tell you what I've really been seeing in the competitive games, and I feel like a lot of people may not have the ability to use the strategy, but it's still a pretty cool thing to think about, and to try to at least maybe bring into one of your games, if you're really bored of the tank meta. It's at least something that we can try that's a little bit different. Okay though, what is this exact thing? Well, essentially it's just trying to abuse Sombra's ultimate in order to destroy the tanks. As we all know, the tanks have very strong abilities, and while you are still not getting rid of, their melee attacks, which are as well probably some of the strongest in the entire game, getting rid of their abilities and getting rid of their ability to defend from your team can be a really nice thing. And especially when you combo with certain characters on your team, well, you can actually kind of shred through a lot of the tanks and take them out and kill the supports as well. It's really a nice way to get into the back line, get into the front line, and just kind of rip apart the enemy team. You do have to, before you get started though, make sure that pretty much everyone on your team has ult, or at least everyone that's trying to combo with Sombra, and as well with that, just try to make sure that everyone's pretty positioned well, as if you aren't ready to go in at the same time, well, you're just gonna kind of lose. Anyways, let me give you guys some more exact examples of kind of how I've been seeing this being used quite a bit. So first off, you want to make sure that the Sombra is positioned behind the enemy team. You're the Sombra, your friend's the Sombra, it doesn't really matter. Or maybe they're just up high. There's somewhere where they can just dump on the enemy team, and it's really not way too hard to figure that out. Next, you have to wait until the enemy team clumps up in some way, or until they're pretty close to each other. From there, you're probably going to want a Zarya on your team. It's not necessary, but it's very nice, and pretty much you always want to make sure to do that. So you have the Zarya, then if the Sombra jumps down, uses her ult, the Zarya goes for ult, and from there you have actually quite a few different options, which is actually kind of nice to counter the tanks. First off, you could go for something like a D.Va ult. D.Va could just ult straight in there, and hopefully, well, not even hopefully, it just will kill them all. It does 1,000 damage, and against everybody except the enemy D.Va, it'll just completely take them out of the game. And then, of course, the enemy D.Va will just be in the small D.Va mode. So yeah, you can take out the tanks and get a really nice push from there. This is especially useful when you're on maps that are the assault maps. If you can capture a point instantly, then that's really kind of unique, as the other team probably won't be able to, because tanks really do have a bit of a problem trying to instantly capture assault maps. So yeah, that can give you a really big advantage from right there. As well with this, you can go Ana and Reaper, which has that really nice blade, just take out the enemy team. That works pretty well. Probably the better idea though is to go Ana Roadhog, because Roadhog just a little bit more viable of a pick right now. The Roadhog just goes in with his ult blazing and just blows through them. And you can have some other options as well. You can happen to ult, your Soldier 76 if there's some people kind of straggling and you just want the rest of your team to shoot into where the Zarya is shooting. Or I guess you could just easily Ana ult your Reinhardt and he could run in there. Not really my favorite thing. I do appreciate D.Va, and since we see D.Va almost every game, I'd go for that. But maybe if D.Va's ult isn't up, that can work some of the time. And that's really kind of how it goes. Mainly with the strategy, you do have to just get a lot of setup and really hope that the enemy team will walk into the right places at the right time. You could try to either be someone like Roadhog and just pull people towards you. You could try to push people away with Reinhardt. You can just try to move people around with D.Va, try to bait people into certain areas. But yeah, if you can get your team coordination up, and if the enemy team happens to get in the wrong place at the wrong time, you can just instantly burst them, and there's nothing they can do because Sombra ults. The thing about it though is that you do have to make sure that you are very fast. If Sombra happens to ult too early and D.Va ults too late, well, you're screwed. If Sombra happens to ult too early and Zarya ults too late, well, you're screwed. If Zarya ults too early and Sombra ults too late, you missed out right there. Really, any order goes. If you're not doing it 100% correct, you are being completely useless, and you're wasting 3 ultimates, which you could have used on a different push. As well, you're taking away a tank from your team, and you're taking away the HP and damage that comes with that, the sustain, and all the defensive abilities that you could have used against the enemy team that tries to push against you. As kind of like a final tip, I would say, try to play this more on offense than defense. On defense, it can work. I have seen it in a few games, where, the defensive team wipes the offensive team, but the problem is then the offense will come back pretty soon, and a lot of times it's just better if you would have had another tank on your team. However, on offense, especially if the enemy team isn't really expecting this, you can just run in, have the Sombra finally get her ult charge after, you know, giving you some health packs, doing a bit of damage, and then when you're all ready, go in, blow up the enemy team, and many times they aren't really ready for it. Again, though, it takes a lot of coordination, it takes a lot of time to get used to, and as well, if just maybe 1 or 2 of the enemy tanks happen to get away from it, they could just protect the rest as well, which does quite make it a bit harder to pull off. Still, with the flaws, if you do have the ability to go in with your team, to have like a full team of 5 or 6, I'd say definitely give this thing a try, and if you have someone that likes playing Sombra, well, that's even one better of a benefit, but if you're going to be playing in solo queue, don't even try it, honestly. It really won't work. Your teammates won't go in. You won't get all the combos to work almost ever. I've tried it like 3 or 4 times in Masters. It just doesn't really go way too well. Sometimes your ult can do decent, but the combos just don't happen to fit as well, and there's not as much communication. People don't with the enemy team as quite as much as they would if you were on team chat. And yeah, I'd say just save it for your team, but it can be a nice thing to kind of watch, see in esports, and maybe if you have a bigger team, bring it to your own team. And yeah, that's just kind of the strategy in a nutshell. If you did enjoy, as always, make sure to leave a like, comment down below if you're ever going to try this out with your own friends, or if you've enjoyed seeing this a few times in the esports. As well, if you don't want to see a strategy that you can just pull off with you and one other friend, you can check out my previous video talking about Torb and Symmetra. I feel like that's a lot easier to pull off. It doesn't really take away too much skill, while this one takes a huge amount of skill and a huge amount of communication. So it's really your choice. Anyways, though, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope this tank meta goes away some way. I do like tanks, but it's a little bit too much. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and as always, have a wonderful day.